What's up guys, Sly here, and thanks for coming back to check out another Anthem video. I've had a few messages over the past few days talking about how sick Anthem looked, and a few from others that were pissed off Mass Effect fans. As a die-hard Mass Effect fan myself, guys, I feel the pain. And while the game itself, I feel is still pretty damn fun, it doesn't have the connectiveness of the previous games. But in any case, I'm still a BioWare fan, and you can't change the past. So while I wish Mass Effect Andromeda would have had the backing of all the BioWare studios like Anthem has, I'm still excited to see what they are able to do when the entire company pulls together. So in this video, I want to go over the Anthem gameplay trailer and do a thorough breakdown of everything. See what we can deduce from just what we see on screen. Maybe, mixed with a little bit of speculation. The problem with Anthem is it's not due to come out in well over a year's time. And remember, it's not technically even summer yet, but we have a lot of time between now and the fall of next year. So unfortunately, that will mean a lot of time will go by with hardly any news at all until probably sometime in the spring of 2018. So, in any case, let's jump into the trailer and see what all we can solidify before we have such a long drought of information. So, first off, there's been a lot of speculation and worry that the game would pull a Division and not look as good when we get our hands on it from what it did in this trailer. It says that everything we have seen was captured in-engine rendered at 4K on the Xbox One X. So to prove this, the graphical experts at Digital Foundry analyzed the footage and their early conclusions look good. They said that while it was ran with checkerboarding, which is a way to render games into 4K, which is exactly what the PS4 Pro uses, they have concluded that it is indeed captured on the Xbox One X. They have concluded that checkerboarding is used rather than native 4K resolution so that the developers can further use other graphical enhancements in the game. Now remember, the developers decide how to use the Xbox One X and all of its processing power. Digital Foundry also said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that since checkerboarding was used, it shows that we are not looking at some super polished edited PC version, but instead, we are really looking at a game running on the Xbox One X. They further point out small details that give it away, such as water reflections and shadows that aren't detailed to the absolute max, showing again that we're looking at a console game and not a game running on a beefed up PC with like twin Titan XPs. So that puts my mind at ease, and it should do everyone else's as well. Alright, so getting to the gameplay itself, we see an almost Star Wars-like atmosphere here. Large mechanical beasts running through the city, citizens with like a rugged, futuristic, yet slightly western type of clothing. It's very Firefly-esque. Unfortunately, we don't get to see much here, but it has been confirmed that this is a hub. Also, notice that we're in first person. Now remember that because I have some speculation a little later on. So after taking in the cityscape, we run into an NPC, which, it's kind of hard to say that because he's a little too lifelike to be called an NPC. But it does solidify the notion that this is indeed a hub where we get supplies, quests, continue story missions, and so on. The city and hub is surrounded by these huge monolithic type walls, gigantic barriers designed to keep humanity in and the rest of the dangerous and wild world outside. The only ones who get out on a regular basis are a type of soldier named freelancers. Now personally, I'm not really all that fond of the name. Freelancers make it sound like these mercenary kind types, And while it's probably not true, it already gives you a certain feeling about them, and that could overshadow what these people really are. In any case, the world outside is dangerous and filled with gigantic walking robots like you just seen, as well as huge dinosaur-like animals. It's a eat or be eaten type of world. The characters look fantastic, guys. They have very lifelike eye and mouth movements, skin textures, and voice acting. It's a great first impression, especially with the whole Mass Effect Andromeda face issue just a few months ago. Now, he says that instead of getting a trained freelancer, this NPC tried to save some money and hired an inexperienced crew who are now missing. So you take on the assignment and head towards the only thing that allows you to survive in the outside world, a sort of exosuit, but not quite a mech suit. Pretty much an Iron Man type suit is the best way to describe these. It gives us extra strength, stamina, speed, and firepower. These suits are known as Javelins. Now as we walk up, you can immediately notice that there are more than one type of suit. How many, we don't really quite know for sure yet, but judging by the look, They are based on styles of play or classes. Notice that we also see something called Ally of the Week right here. It shows player level and also some kind of percentage. Not sure if this is someone who you play with on a regular basis or if this is some type of, NPC companion. We really don't have enough information to speculate on that further. Also, you see in front there are 3 Javelin suits, a large red one, a smaller and sleeker black, white, and gold one to the left, which looks a bit more technical and advanced than the others, and then the smallest of them all on the right. When the trailer hits these parts, the narrator gives the audio over to a small group of players. We start off with the 2 of them who are trying to simulate what it would be like if you and a friend were to play together. They start talking about which javelin they plan on taking out, and here is where we get the names of 2 of them. The large red one is known as a Colossus, and the smaller one on the right is known as a Ranger.
Let's join 2 players as they head out on an expedition.
Hey, Paul. You ready to go?
I'm just grabbing some supplies, just about ready.
What are you going to use today?
I decided to go with the Colossus.
I'm going to use my Ranger. Try out some new upgrades.
So right here we get a sense of where they fit in terms of playstyles. The Colossus is a tank like Javelin, heavy firepower, lots of armor, but probably slower than the rest. And in order for it to be more powerful, there has to be some type of Achilles heel. We don't know if these suits, need power or refueling or whatnot, but I'm willing to bet that there's a drawback for having the big guns. Next, the player we're following takes the smaller suit known as the Ranger. Now, the name alone here gives you a feel for what it does. A smaller, faster, more agile platform. It's probably made so it can go anywhere, but at the cost of less armor and firepower. Now, the other suit, we'll get to that here in a few minutes when we see it in action. Also, notice how the player asks the other one, what are you going to use today? So right there, that lets us know that we're not stuck with just one type of suit. So our base character isn't a dude in the suit the entire time, it's actually a human. That means we will see our character be in first person quite a bit. We're not stuck using the suit the entire time, or stuck just using one. We will have the ability to choose a different javelin based on our needs, kind of like choosing a different subclass within Destiny. Also notice how they talk about gathering supplies and trying out different upgrades, so there must be a weapons vendor inside the walls, or perhaps you cannot apply certain upgrades to your suit while you're in the wild. Maybe you have to come back inside the walls to apply specific upgrades. Now hopefully they don't take a page from Warframe and make upgrades play out in real time. Fingers definitely crossed about that. So as we jump into the suit, we're hauled up to the top of the wall, and again guys, the facial features and details stand out. They're pretty incredible. This is what I was hoping for the most, being able to bring PC-like graphics to the ease of a console. Now 4K, that's cool and everything, but bringing the graphical richness of the PC to a modern day console in 60 frames per second, that is way more exciting than 4K. Anyways, as we walk out, we see that we are indeed not on Earth. But if we are and I'm mistaken, then this is in the very extreme far future. But notice as we pan around the top of the wall, take a look at the icons scattered around the area. You see a faint one right in front of us, which is kind of like, looks like a cave with Greek pillars in the middle. Maybe it's a temple or ruins, perhaps it's a quest. But what really excites me is the one to the far right over here. The ominous mountain with an odd looking plateau standing higher than anything else around it. It has a huge skull icon right in the middle. Does that look familiar? Take a look at that. Now we don't know for sure if this means the same thing as Bungie's icon, but either way it does tell you that something difficult lies within. Now I'm not 100% convinced BioWare has the willingness to make a full-fledged raid, but I do think that they would shoot for a smaller dungeon-like activity, which I think this icon represents. So if you look around and you wanted to put your hardest, most daring activity somewhere, where would that be? Now to me, it's that mountain right there, or perhaps deep underground. So the prospect of dungeons and raids is pretty enticing, also pretty possible, especially when you bring in the vertical capabilities of the Javelin suits. Now imagine the awesome possibilities of a raid when you add the fact that players can fly. It would be incredible. Also, add the fact that since we now know we can exit our suits, I would love to see a game that lets us fight like normal soldiers in first person, and then at certain times switch over to our suits. For instance, imagine a raid where you enter in on your Javelin suit. You fight halfway through it, you fly around, you do certain activities in your suit, and then halfway through it, you have to exit it and fight the rest on foot. You could cram a ton of different experiences into that kind of scenario. In any case, at the top we see our first instance of a player joining in someone else's world. They literally just fall right out of the sky and end up right next to you. Now, I'm not sure if you can join inside the wall as well, but for a modern day multiplayer it would be kind of odd if you couldn't. The player continues talking back and forth, like friends do, and she tells Paul, who's in the Colossus, that she likes his new mortar system on his back. He replies that he got it on the weekend. Just like, friends talking about how RNG finally dropped a mythic class for one of them in Destiny. Now, even though it's fake, they're doing this to show the multiplayer aspect and the connectiveness Anthem is shooting for. Also, that this is a looter shooter type of game. They're hoping players get excited about the new upgrades and loot that they find throughout their gameplay, especially when there's powerful weapons to seek out, as you'll see here in a little bit. So as we continue, we jump off the side to start flying, and the suit starts to show their true capability. But also notice there's an arena or something at the bottom of the valley. You see that flag icon right in the middle? That could be a PvP type activity, or perhaps it's simply another outpost or something you could go to and search around in. But it just goes to show you that this place is filled with areas to check out. So as we're flying, the narrator tells us what we already know here, that Anthem is a huge game you can explore with your friends. That the Javelin suits we see are the Ranger, which is well balanced and versatile, while the Colossus is a tanking powerhouse. Now the reason I mention that is because they use the word tank here, which is pretty interesting. Tank usually refers to the Trinity type of system, like, tank, healer, and DPS. I don't think Anthem will be that type of MMO, but I could be wrong. However, maybe for certain instances you will need each type of class to succeed. Either way, we see some great scenery here as we fly through the tunnel, and look at how smooth the transitions are from area to area. As we land, we can see that the suit has a power sprint type ability as well, helped by its jetpack-like thrusters. Now, as we get around this bend, we see just how detailed this game really is. I mean, take a look, guys. The leaves, the flowers, the ground, the suit itself, backed up with the rocks and the ruins, looking all incredible against an epic backdrop of what looks like an old space elevator ring. We also see the first dangerous creature in Anthem. Curiously, Paul, the other player, tells us that we don't want to waste all of our supplies on this guy. So again, this solidifies my idea that we aren't always in our suits all the time. Because if we have a set amount of supplies, and if they run out or run low against just one big animal, we either have to restock a ton of times, or that means the suits are only used for heavy combat and running from place to place, and we get there, we finally exit. Also, we get a first look at our attacks or abilities. For the Ranger, it looks like we have a rocket salvo on our left bumper, perhaps a ground pound on our right bumper, or maybe it's like some kind of canister grenade. And then in the middle, we see the combo, which is no doubt an ultimate or super-like ability. So this does confirm that ultimates or supers will be a part of combat. Next, we see something special and honestly, guys, quite unique. We take our suits underwater, and while we're down here, we actually discover a hidden area called Deadlight Caverns. So this game is not only exploring the ground and caves, but also high up on cliffs, mountains, and as well below the water surface. That's pretty unique, guys. You don't see a lot of underwater anything in MMOs. Some games you can't even swim in, or they leave out water altogether. So this is a cool first glimpse into more possibilities. So as we rise out of the water, we start taking fire, and that shows us our health bar for the first time. It's actually over here on the bottom right, which is kind of an odd place to have it if you ask me. Now this is your armor, not really health, so I'm curious as to what happens if the armor drains to 0. Do we exit the suit and then fight on foot? If so, that confirms my thoughts earlier about the two different types of fighting styles, first and third person. Anyway, I still think it's an odd place for your health bar to go. A small bar in the middle right above your abilities would work better in my opinion. In any case, our first gunfight breaks out, and while we do some shotgun work, Paul comes from a flanking position and then nails them with the ground pound ability. A bit further on, we stumble upon a place called Longfall Ruins, and notice the symbol. We saw that earlier at the top of the wall. So this symbol must point to ruins, and on top of that, our players talk about doing this with another friend a bit later on. So this must be some type of activity, a large activity, maybe even a hard activity if they need to wait on more friends to complete it. Maybe ruins are kind of like a mini dungeon and I was wrong, the skull is a raid. Now I don't know that for sure, but I don't think I can wait a year to find out. Alright guys, so as we continue, Paul finds a treasure chest to open, and this shows that there are indeed hidden chests to find in the world. And what's awesome is that everyone gets loot, even if they don't open the chest themselves, as long as you're in a team. And you can see here on the right, as soon as Paul opens it, we get loot as well. Not sure what Brinium shards are, but I'll take it. As we progress, the world shows just how dangerous it really is. Even the plant life has teeth. These mouth-like plants and spiky roots everywhere give you a very, unwelcome feeling, which is, of course, the point. But the level design team has done an amazing job here. The atmosphere really hits home. Also notice that everywhere we look, there's debris. Pieces of assumingly old ship parts, huge rings, which earlier I said looked like space elevator scaffolding, but it is absolutely everywhere you look. So that has a story waiting to be told. But all the debris has years of growth on it as well. So to me, this means that we've traveled here from Earth and are now trapped on this planet and have been for centuries. But again, we'll find out soon enough, I'm sure. As we get towards the end here, guys, we find out the name of one type of enemy in Anthem, and they're called Scars. They appear to be some kind of small looting scavengers. They take down this huge mechanical beast, which is the same thing we've seen inside the wall, and then the instant it explodes, they're already picking at the pieces. As they start taking things apart, Paul gets to use his mortar, which we talked about earlier, and we also get to see our first use of an ability, which is our left bumper rocket salvo. Of course, that's for the Ranger. Now, it cools down very, very quickly here, but I bet it's still a work in progress. Anyway, here is what it all boils down to, guys. Loot. Destiny has engrams, other games have treasure chests, some fight or pass over items at the end of bosses, but here we have Anthem's version. Now, it is pretty similar to an engram in the fact that it contains data, but these seem to be some kind of neural-like schematics. All we have to do is walk over it and notice how it seems to kind of integrate with the suit immediately. The triangle icon appears on the right hand side of the screen, and then it slowly starts to break open. Now, I don't know if this is for effect or if it's because it's choosing from a loot pool, which means it's RNG based. Either way, it shows how we will receive loot drops in the world. As it breaks open, it shows the rarity of the weapon as well as its stats compared to your equipped weapon. Now, I don't know if there are different types of schematics, like how this one we just got was orange. Maybe there's a purple or platinum drop depicting the type. But like everything else, guys, we're going to have to wait and see. Okay, so coming to the end, we see what looks to be the start of a public event, something called a Shaper Storm. So as any good friend would do, you invite your other friends into the public event, and this gives us a good look at a few other types of Javelin suits, as well as their possible playstyles. You see when they join, it shows the entire team up here at the top. It shows everyone's level, name, and at the far right, we see something like elements. But these could be icons of something else. We see a shield at the top, then on the right, kind of like an electric bolt, the left has some kind of solar icon, and then the bottom shows arc, maybe? I don't know, snowflake? I have no idea. But there are also percentages next to them, so this kind of has me stumped. I can guess about a lot of things, but here I really have no idea. Perhaps those percentages are charges for your ultimate, and each one of those icons could be a type of attack that they have equipped. I'm just guessing, but I'm really not sure. So as we reach the end of this path and see the public event, this thing is absolutely crazy, guys. I mean, it changes the entire area that you're in. Weather, rain, effects, it all just happens out of the blue, and it's quite the spectacle. Before we jump in, you can see a quick look at the other two Javelin suits though. The one closest to us was in the hangar on the left hand side at the beginning of the video that you see right here. But also notice how she has a different kind of energy pushing her along. It's not a thruster like the other two, it's completely different. Also, watch as she starts floating, and then with the crack of lightning, she instantly disappears. Not sure what kind of Javelin it is, but it definitely fits the look that I gave it at the beginning. A definitely more technically advanced Javelin suit. And as we get to the cliff, you can briefly see the other Javelin, which is a bit bulkier than the Ranger, but definitely not a Colossus. So it could be just a mid-range type of fighter. It's kind of hard to tell by such a brief look. And then as it closes, we all jump into the center of the storm, and then it ends. And that's about it, guys. Now, it gives a good feeling that makes you want to instantly play it and discover what's next. So good job on that one, BioWare. But that's about it. Hopefully we'll continue getting trailers and small updates here and there every so often, but I'm willing to bet we won't see much until Gamescom or PAX West. Although when we do, you can be sure I'll be analyzing every bit of it here on my channel, so I hope to have you all with me when that happens. In any case, y'all, thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to check me out on Twitter or even Facebook. Sly Nation or Sly Nation Gaming. It's the best place to stay up to date on everything and anything to do with Anthem, as well as any updates to other games like Destiny or Mass Effect. Take care, y'all, and keep an eye out for more videos coming out of Sly Nation here soon. But until then, this is your boy Sly, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Later, guys.
Let's go.